On a world where humans were considered weak, 5 women arrived. By sunset, the planet had changed forever. Because you can imprison humans, but you can't control what they become. The day began like any other on Earth. Ordinary, quiet, forgettable. 5 human women lived their separate lives, unaware that their fates were already sealed by forces far beyond the sky. Amina treated patients in a small city clinic. Layla repaired a generator with grease-stained hands. Nora analyzed ancient languages for a university project. Sarah woke early, training like she never left the military. And Hannah, the youngest, sat alone in a library, reading faster than anyone should be able to. None of them knew their names were being whispered across a distant alien world. Vel'Thara, home of the hive mind civilization, ancient, advanced, logical to the point of coldness, was facing a silent crisis. Their technology flickered, their energy veins weakened, their planetary AI trembled like a dying heart. The hive needed answers that IT needed, new perspectives that IT needed, minds untainted by their rigid perfection. And so they looked outward, toward Earth, toward humanity, toward 5 individuals whose unique skill sets appeared insignificant to most, yet would become the key to saving a world of giants. When the alien collectors descended, there were no battles, no screams, no resistance. Just 5 flashes of white light, 5 vanishings, 5 new destinies unfolding at once. The women awoke in a cold chamber aboard the Vel'Tharan transport vessel HFY Dawn. Gone were the familiar sounds of Earth, replaced by humming energy coils and alien silhouettes that moved with mechanical grace. Fear struck first, confusion followed, but panic? Panic never came. Because if there's one thing humanity excels at, one trait no alien civilization has ever been able to predict, it is our ability to adapt. Each woman processed the situation differently. Amina checked on the others with calm professionalism. Layla inspected the alien machinery, curiosity overpowering. Terror. Nora listened to the strange telepathic vibrations in the air, already trying to decode them. Sarah positioned herself between danger and the group, instinctively protective. Hannah simply watched, her mind absorbing every detail like a living data recorder. When the vessel descended toward the crystalline surface of Vel'Thara, none of them knew the truth. They weren't brought here to be honored. They weren't brought here to be safe. They were brought here because the aliens believed humans were weak enough to control, yet smart enough to exploit. But the Vel'Tharans made a mistake they would soon regret, a mistake that would reshape their entire civilization. Because these were not just 5 women. They were human women, and humanity never stays silent. Humanity never stays small. Humanity changes everything it touches. This was the day 5 of them would change an entire planet. The moment the HFY Dawn touched Vel'Tharan ground, everything about the planet felt wrong. The light was too sharp, the air hummed with static, and the towering alien figures who escorted them moved like synchronized shadows, precise, cold, calculated. Amina was the first to notice the tremors in their limbs. Not fear, not anger, instability. A failing biological pattern. Layla noticed the flickering energy conduits running along the walls of quantum thread cables that looked centuries old, frayed, overworked, stressed to breaking. Nora heard fluctuations in the telepathic frequency, like a hive thinking with a fever. Sarah watched how guards kept glancing at the sky, as if expecting it to fall. And Hannah noticed everything. She said nothing. She didn't have to. The Vel'Tharans led them through a massive crystalline tunnel that twisted like a living serpent. The walls pulsed with faint violet light, dimming, brightening, dimming again to as if the planet itself were breathing unevenly. Something's wrong with this place, Amina whispered. Layla smirked. Yeah, did you see their power grid? They're running a whole world on systems that'd fail a human safety inspection. Shoo, Sarah warned, eyeing the guards. But the guards weren't listening. They were distracted by fear. The group reached the Citadel core, a colossal chamber shaped like a glowing heart. Hundreds of Vel'Tharans stood in formation, surrounding a central platform where the women were instructed to stand. A telepathic wave washed over them. The Hive Council spoke in unison. have been selected for analysis. Your minds will be measured. Your potential will be classified. Your cooperation is expected. Expected, not requested. Nora leaned slightly toward Amina. That sounded less like diplomacy and more like livestock management. Amina didn't disagree. The council continued. Our apex mind detects anomalies in your species. Randomness, unpredictability, emotional deviation. These traits may be useful for diagnosis of our planetary disruption. Diagnosis, Amina's eyes narrowed. You're sick, she said aloud, interrupting the council. All of you. A psychic shockwave rippled through the chamber. The nearest alien glared. Explain. Amina stepped forward, fearless, voice steady. Your neural glow is fading. That means deterioration. Your shared consciousness is overloading. Something is breaking down from within. The hive mind vibrated with alarm. Layla pointed toward the power shafts overhead. And your infrastructure is crumbling. Those conduits haven't been serviced in decades. You're about 3 days away from a sector-wide blackout. Murmurs erupted, sharp, disjointed, panicked. Humans were not supposed to see these things. Humans were supposed to be inferior. Yet here were 5 women, fresh from Earth, reading a dying planet like a medical report. The council attempted to reassert control. You will speak only when questioned. Sarah stepped forward, her voice low and deadly calm. Then start questioning. Because whatever's happening to your world, it's getting worse. A glow intensified at the center of the chamber. A pulsating crystalline pillar. Hannah's gaze locked onto it. The apex mind. The hive's core. The brain of the planet. And it was flickering like a failing light bulb. It's not just unstable, Hannah said quietly, her voice echoing through the chamber. Every Vel'Tharan froze. What do you perceive, human? The council demanded. Hannah lifted her hand slowly toward the core. It's dying. Silence struck like a strike of thunder. Then chaos. Thousands of whispered thoughts. Fear, denial, desperation. For the first time in their recorded history, the Vel'Tharans faced a reality outside their control. And the only beings who seemed to understand what was happening were the humans that a race they thought was beneath them, but a race they wanted to study, not rely on, that a race that, without warning, now held the key to their survival. The women exchanged looks. They didn't need words. This wasn't fate. This wasn't destiny. This was the moment humanity began to shift the balance of an entire alien world. Panic swept through the Vel'Tharan citadel like an electrical storm. The apex mind, once flawless, immortal, unbreakable, now pulsed erratically, flickering in a violent rhythm that made the entire chamber vibrate. Thousands of Vel'Tharans clutched their shimmering heads, their shared consciousness splitting into chaotic fragments. For the first time in their existence, they felt fear. Not logical fear, not calculated risk, pure, human-like fear. And that terrified them even more. The council turns. Desperate, stabilize the core, a counselor hissed telepathically. It is beyond our protocols, another responded. Then create new protocols. The apex mind does not adapt. Then we will perish. The hive mind fractured further, voices overlapping, contradicting, screaming into the mental network. Amina stepped forward, shouting above the chaos. Listen, your collective is destabilizing because the apex mind is failing. You need to isolate sections of your hive link before the overload spreads. The council glared. We do not sever the link. Ever. Then you're going to die, Sarah snapped. That silenced even the psychic storm. Humans take control. Layla rushed toward a nearby conduit panel. The guards attempted to block her, until the panel sparked violently and a shockwave knocked 3 of them to the ground. Your systems are overheating, she said, already pulling wires free. You keep pushing energy into a dying brain. You'll blow your entire grid. Nora placed her hands against a vibrating relay node, her eyes narrowing as she listened to the alien frequencies. The apex mind is trying to send distress signals, she murmured. But your hive link is too rigid. It can't change its pattern. It's stuck in a feedback loop. The alien stared at her in disbelief. You understand our thought signatures? A counselor whispered. Enough to know they're breaking. Hannah stepped toward the apex core, her calm presence cutting through the panic like a blade through fog. "The problem isn't the hive," she said softly. "It's the root." The council's mirrored eyes snapped toward her. "What root?" Hannah lifted her hand and pointed directly at the pulsating crystal structure. "The apex mind has been infected." A collective gasp, audible and psychic, swept through the chamber. "Infected by what?" a trembling alien asked. Hannah shook her head. "Not what? Who?" The chamber fell silent. "The planet begins to collapse." A deep groan erupted through the citadel. Metal warping, glass fracturing, lights dimmed to a sickly blue. Energy rivers sputtered and died. Outside, thunderless storms spiraled through the sky, crackling with unnatural distortion. Vel'Thara was unraveling that a counselor screeched. "Evacuate the core." "No," Amina countered. "If you disconnect now, you'll cause a planetary mind break. Your people won't survive the psychic backlash." Layla yelled over the hum. "We need to bypass the apex mind's intake nodes. Reroute power into stabilizers." "We don't have stabilizers," an alien replied. "Then we'll build them." Sarah grabbed two of the fallen guards and dragged them back to safety. "Move. Support your hive, or it's over." The Vel'Tharans obeyed, because they had no other choice. The truth reveals itself. Nora suddenly stiffened. Her eyes widened. "I hear something," she whispered. Inside the telepathic field, a foreign signal. Hannah turned sharply. "Where?" Nora raised a trembling hand toward the dark sector of the crystal wall. "There. Something's hiding inside your hive mind. Something intelligent." The aliens recoiled in horror. "Impossible," a counselor cried. "Nothing can breach the apex mind." Sarah clenched her fists. "Well, something did." And then the crystal core screamed. Not a sound through the air, the sound inside every mind present, that a jagged, malicious frequency. Amina staggered, clutching her head. "It's attacking your neural link." Vel'Tharans collapsed one by one as a psychic wave tore through the chamber. "What is that?" Layla shouted. Hannah's voice cut through the chaos, steady and cold. "It's a parasite. A consciousness parasite." The alien screamed in telepathic agony. Hannah continued. "And it's been feeding on your hive for centuries." The apex mind convulsed again, cracks forming across its crystalline surface. The parasite was waking, growing, preparing to take full control. And in that moment, one truth became brutally clear. The Vel'Tharans had not brought humans here to study them. They had brought the only species stubborn, clever, and chaotic enough to fight this thing. The council staggered toward the women. "What do we do?" Their unified voice trembled. Sarah raised her chin, eyes burning with human fire. "You let us handle it." The apex mind cracked. A soundless explosion of psychic force rippled outward, shattering crystal conduits and dropping thousands of Vel'Tharans to their knees. The chamber trembled violently as energy veins ruptured like snapping nerves. For the first time in Vel'Tharan history, the hive mind screamed. A jagged, black tendril of psychic corruption spiraled outward from the apex core. Alive, twisting, pulsing. The parasite, that a sentient mind virus, that a consciousness that had been hiding inside the hive link for centuries, slowly feeding, growing, waiting for the moment the apex grew weak enough to take full control. That moment was now. The parasite expanded, its presence blotting out the usual harmony of the hive with raw, predatory hunger. Thousands of mirrored alien eyes reflected its monstrous glow that a counselor, trembling, whispered, "Is this our end?" Sarah stepped forward, cracking her knuckles. "Not today." The parasite reveals itself, a voice, cold, deep, and dripping with malice, echoed through every mind in the chamber. "You brought me 5 new hosts. How generous of you, humans." Amina steadied herself. "It can think. It's fully conscious." Nora's breath caught. "It's not just feeding, it's colonizing. It wants bodies, minds, a new species to take over." The parasites surged outward. Dark psychic tendrils lashed toward the women. Sarah shoved Amina aside just as a tendril slammed in her mental field. She staggered but held her ground through brute force of will. Is that all you've got? More tendrils whipped out. Layla dodged one, barely, before grabbing a loose power conduit. Give me 30 seconds, and I can overload the stabilizer rings. You have 10, Sarah shouted. Hannah steps into the sorry Hannah, walked forward, calm, silent, unafraid. The parasite paused. Even the hive mind felt it. Human child, why do you approach? Hannah's eyes glowed faintly as she stared into the apex mind's cracks. I am not here to be your host, she said. I am here to remove you. The parasite laughed, an attack disguised as sound. You? A fragile, solitary brain? Hannah reached out and touched the crystal. The chamber shook violently. And then, the apex mind reacted to her. The entire structure brightened, flaring with blinding light. Not from the parasite, from her, a pure signal. Uncorrupted. Human. Nora's breath caught. She's syncing with the apex mind, manually. That's impossible. Amina whispered. No one has ever forced a direct link to a hive consciousness before. Sarah's eyes widened. Hannah, what are you? Hannah didn't answer. She was already inside. Battle inside, the Amina Hannah stood in a mental landscape of swirling light, shadow, and collapsing memory threads. The parasite towered above her, an ocean of black thought, dripping with stolen intelligence. You cannot fight me, human. You've never met a human before, she replied. The monster lunged. Hannah countered with a burst of mental clarity, so sharp it cut through the parasite like a blade. This mind is not yours, she said. This world is not yours. The parasite roared in psychic fury. Outside, the apex mind pulsed violently, cracks widening until Layla screamed. If SHE doesn't win in the next minute, this entire planet will detonate from neural feedback. Nora gritted her teeth. Then we help her. A hive fights as one. Humans do too. She grabbed Amina's hand, then Sarah's, then Layla's. The four women formed a ring, and together they projected their thoughts toward Hannah. Strength, memory, emotion, human stubbornness. Hannah felt that at a surge of power to humanity's greatest weapon, connection. She unleashed the combined force of 5 human minds, 5 individuals, 5 free wills, against a creature built for controlling unity, not resisting individuality. This is humanity, Hannah shouted in the psychic plane. We don't break. She struck that a blinding explosion of pure thought ripped the parasite apart. Its scream echoed for seconds that felt like centuries. Then, silence. The core explodes with AI in the physical world. The apex mind erupted in a shockwave of brilliance, sending ripples of energy across the chamber, across the citadel, across the entire planet. Every Vel'Tharan collapsed. Not in pain, but in overwhelming relief. The parasite was gone. The hive link stabilized. The neural glow returned. The tremors ceased. The planet breathed again. A counselor rose slowly, irradiating from its mirrored eyes. You saved us. Hannah stepped back from the core, her knees shaking. Amina caught her. Sarah exhaled loudly. Told you we'd handle it. Layla grinned. And I didn't even have to blow anything up. Nora's voice cracked with emotion. Hannah, you just rewired an entire planetary mind. The hive bowed their heads, thousands, all at once, at a gesture never before recorded. Humans had not just helped Vel'Thara, they had saved it. And the hive mind knew one truth now, burned into their collective memory. Humanity was the most dangerous, most unpredictable, most powerful force they had ever encountered. In one day, 5 human women changed an entire planet. The sky over Verexia was no longer the cold metallic gray it had been for centuries. Now it glowed with faint gold. Light emitted from the planet's healing atmosphere. And at the center of it all stood 5 human women, exhausted, bruised, but unbroken. Doctor. Liana exhaled shakily as the alien crowds gathered around them. Not with weapons, not with threats, but with hope. The Verexians, once cruelly united under a regime that valued obedience over life, now looked upon the women as if they were the only truth left in the galaxy. The High Chancellor, once confident, arrogant, knelt before them, trembling. We believed humans weak, he whispered, but you saved us from ourselves. Ava stepped forward, her voice calm but firm. You were never weak. You were misled. But now you have a choice. Keep living in fear or build something better. The words echoed through the valley, and for the first time in generations, Virexians lifted their heads as if breathing fresh air after drowning. The revolution the women sparked, accidentally, unwillingly, but bravely, had spread through every city, every colony, every skyport. Factories that once produced nerve gas now mass-produced water filters and agricultural processors using human designs. Labor camps were dismantled, families reunited. The giant planetary AI mind, corrupted by the regime, was reborn as a guardian, using Ava and Dr. Liana's input to rewrite its core directives: protect life, advance freedom, prioritize compassion. Humans hadn't just saved individuals, they had reset the entire planet. Mira, staring at the horizon, whispered, "We came here as captives," Isla finished softly. "But this world needed us more than we ever knew." And she was right. The women didn't just escape. They changed Virexia, its laws, its leadership, its technology, its hope. What began as fear, confusion, and captivity had transformed into the strongest alliance the planet had ever known. And in their honor, the Virexians renamed the Central Capital District Terra's Dawn. Because for Virexia, this wasn't the end. It was the beginning. The sun of Virexia dipped low, casting long, soft shadows across the newly rebuilt capital. Children, Virexian and human, ran through the streets where soldiers once marched. Markets buzzed with life where silence once ruled. Hope, once an impossible dream, had become the new normal. The 5 human women stood together on the balcony of the great spire that overlooked the city. They weren't rulers. They weren't conquerors. They were simply the spark that had reminded an entire civilization what freedom felt like. That gentle breeze carried the sound of distant cheers. Citizens below raised banners with hand-painted symbols. The 5 stars representing the women who changed everything. Dr. Liana smiled faintly. "Imagine telling Earth about this," she said softly. Ava laughed. "They won't believe a word of it." But Mira shook her head. "They will. Humans always believe in the impossible. It's what makes us us." Behind them, the Virexian Council waited to escort them to the shuttle prepared to take them home. Their time on this world, accidentally captured, reluctantly heroic, was ending. Isla looked out across the glowing horizon one last time. "We didn't come here to be heroes," she whispered. "We just refused to give up." And that, more than anything, was what reshaped the planet. Yes, they walked toward the shuttle. Thousands of Virexians bowed, not out of fear but gratitude. The women didn't bow back. They simply waved, humble and human. The engines roared to life. The platform trembled. The sky opened. And as the ship rose higher and higher, the world below shone brighter than it ever had. Virexia would never forget them. And humanity. Humanity had just earned another legend in the stars. The starship drifted into the silent dark, leaving the golden planet behind. 5 women sat together in the observation deck, watching Virexia shrink into a distant spark. Medals hung around their necks. Grand speeches awaited them on Earth. And yet, they all knew. What they had done would echo across galaxies. Back on Virexia, schools would teach their names, statues would rise, and every future generation would hear the same message. 5 human women showed us that courage isn't born, it is chosen. Ava leaned back and whispered, "We survived." Dr. Liana corrected her gently. "We didn't just survive, we changed a world." The ship hummed softly around them as stars streaked by, opening into a vast, endless future, a future shaped not by weapons or wars, but by 5 ordinary humans who refused to bow, refused to break, and refused to stop believing in better. The galaxy would remember this day, not as the day 5 humans were taken, but as the day 5 human women changed an entire planet. And with a final pulse of thrusters, the ship vanished into the starlit horizon, carrying legends home.